I have to say I'm really delighted to be invited this evening. So thank you, it's quite an honor. So I thought I'd start by, I guess we've all had a moment in, probably earlier in our life that we always remember, and it's probably helped shape who we are now. So I wanted to start by talking about a moment, one of my moments. I was about 12 years of age, and my English literature teacher made us, the entire class, watch a British film called Freds. Now, Freds was a hypothetical drama, and it basically asked what would happen if a nuclear bomb landed on a British town such as Sheffield. And, this drama, it rather horrifically, but really powerfully, dramatized the sheer terror that we'd experience in the lead up to the explosion, the immediate aftermath, the nuclear winter beyond that. And even sort of 2 or 3 generations down the line, it would look at how society can gradually disintegrate, language and culture and social conduct. So, needless to say, as a rather innocent 12-year-old, this absolutely traumatized me. I had nightmares for a couple of years after this. So, Mr. Berry, English teacher, if you're listening, thank you very much. Though what this film also did was fully alert me to the existence of the Cold War and nuclear weapons themselves. I remember pouring through encyclopedias to find out more. I was really fascinated about how our societies are built and how our relationships are developed and how what other cultures are built on. And even today, I have this kind of endless curiosity as to how human beings can create something that is capable of wiping us out. It blew my mind. It made no sense. I mean, it still doesn't make any sense. So the human condition has always been a real interest to me, dystopian narratives and science fiction. So I've always been really curious about, evolution as a conscious species. So I guess there was something that came out of that film, so thank you again, Mr. Berry. I know it was a pretty bleak start, I apologize, but I am actually here to sort of speak about, I'm here to speak about love and I'm here to speak about beauty. But I'm here to speak about falling out of love with beauty. The thing is, with images, I spent many years creating images, publishing them, commissioning them, and, my relationship with images has become strained because of this. And I've just become quite disillusioned with them. Maybe you probably don't want to know why. I guess I'm tired of the lies within images. You may have noticed, but images have become weapons. You might argue that this has always been the case. And yes, we can easily look at the propaganda of war as a clear example of this. But historically, we've always seen propaganda as primarily a political tool. A form of communication aimed towards influencing an attitude of a person or a group or a population towards a particular cause or idea. But we don't necessarily have to look at propaganda in a political sense. But propaganda as a language that we have adopted for ourselves and our collective digital consciousness. It's a fascinating language. It's a language of deception. Each one of us is actually a pretty expert propagandist now. There's that video of the cat driving the car to the supermarket. Of course it's fake, and you're going to call it out as fake. There are no troops lining your border. You can put them there and you can lie about it because we'll process those images through a digital environment. So that's already created a layer of deception for us, a layer of distrust. And we're all skeptics. We now take what we see, and what we read, and what we watch with almost as much hesitancy as we do when we, say, encounter fiction. So, outside of this, the square frame of your Instagram profile, your entire life could be falling apart, but as long as you keep smiling through that filter, everything is okay. So I don't mean to be completely negative, I'm just questioning, but there's a lot of fun that exists within this kind of deceptive language, this deceptive digital space that we have. We could even argue that surrealism as an art movement has probably had the greatest impact on how we communicate today, the way we communicate with images. I mean, memes would serve as a really good example of that. Memes being the way we actually subvert and recontextualize images in order to appropriate them and say what we want to say with them. But I often wonder how far this deception reaches. Yes, we have more access to information than ever before, but we often seem really numb to the real struggles and lives of other people. So, through my consultancy, we spend a lot of time with, user experience, which I guess is kind of replaced beauty, maybe, as the core value of creators. Creators are not necessarily interested in beauty, they're interested in communicating with you, or creating a situation for you to make it very easy to get from here to here. So you can argue that beauty is becoming increasingly irrelevant. Though I often wonder, as we progress with optimizing, experiences and automating tasks, what actually happens to the inherent nature of who we are? What happens to emotion? What happens to instinct? What happens to desire? And I also wonder if artists are actually more capable of engaging with this language of experience and user experience to create a greater understanding than something that you would just get from a single image. So can user experience actually help us to tell real stories? So, to help me discuss this, I hope you don't mind, but I invited my soul along to give me a hand. Hello, Soul. How are you today?
Very well, thank you, Michael. How are you?
I'm okay, but I'm a little bit lost here. Can you tell me what is soul?
Soul is an organizational body realized to ensure an individual has the capacity for self-generated classification to safeguard the virility of future dreams. Members of Soul work side by side with dream personnel at locations around the world to ensure seamless integration of simulated experiences with less tangible aspirations.
Okay, so soul's not being particularly helpful here, I apologize. But okay, so let me explain a little bit. So I recently published a story in a new journal called The Nod. And soul is a kind of virtual reality experience space in which, this is a very multi-layered space. And it has many different ideas in there, and it attempts to explore our behavior, with each other, and our identities, but through technology, through user experiences, and through ultimately virtual reality. So I thought it'd be interesting to share some of the elements of this story to maybe, I guess, illustrate how I'm thinking about images and how I'm thinking about potentially what we might do with them in the future. So the Nod focuses on a particular level in this virtual reality game or experience called Soul. But I want to find out a bit more. So whose idea was Soul?
Soul is a self-generated behavioral experience predetermined by its valued members.
Right, still not being very helpful, but I apologize. But it's actually quite a difficult game to play. So our protagonist in this story is a pretty avid gamer, and he's explored most of the levels of Soul. But he gets to this rather difficult level. And he's trying to sort of figure it out, and he's like exploring the help section and trying to get somewhere. And what I was interested in, I was like, well, if we're very good at changing our digital personas from one day to the next. You might change your persona to Marilyn Monroe or Beyonce, but then it doesn't make you Marilyn Monroe or Beyonce. So in this story, I'm asking, what would happen if we were in a position where within this virtual reality game, you're actually able to become someone else? So you'll actually be able to walk down the streets as that person, experience their highs, experience their lows, and experience their anxieties. So our gamer finds himself in this sort of situation here. And he wondered, how is he going to explore this game? So he gets into this area of the game in which you get to select your character, but it's quite automated. So he finds himself selecting a character and immediately immersed in this game. And it looks like the game he's always played, but it no longer is. It actually becomes, and then he gradually discovers that the way he's feeling is different. The way people interact with him is different. The way he explores the terrain is different. So in this game, he realizes that he's actually playing no longer as a white male, but he's playing as a black male. And he's walking down exactly the same streets, but suddenly he's entering a whole new landscape. So I probably just so the nod, the title of the nod basically comes from a kind of code that exists primarily amongst black males in sort of different parts of the world. And it means that when you're out there on your own and you're walking and you're talking, you often have this mode of communication that exists primarily, I mean, this is a very specific code I'm talking about here. It exists primarily between black males, and they will acknowledge each other. So you could be in Germany, you could be in France, and you'll see that you'll have this acknowledgement happens in the street. But you wouldn't see this unless you're on the inside of this code. So I just wanted to read a tiny little section of it to kind of give you an idea of what this person experiences when they're in this game. So you might move on from here and continue down the main street of level 9, and you should do your best to avoid the stumble, the lurch, and the call out to you through the missing front teeth of another from the failing pale end of your hex range. And he relays to you a story. You'll have your soul age, or maybe a little newer. The soul will be about his own exasperation, about how soul has not given him a chance, or his inability to see how to whittle out that chance. And you might nod in solidarity, and your eyes might meet firmly, and he might prod further as he sees you have a sense of what he's talking about. And he'll tell you how difficult level 9 is, and he keeps walking into cul-de-sacs, repeatedly, blighted by every attempt to beat it, or even just to leave it, and you'll nod again. So I guess, through this story, I've been wondering, could there actually be a future for images? Could this be, would we be able to speak with images and help to understand each other instead of deceiving each other? Could there be a future of development of virtual reality and user experience beyond the confines of just fantasy and efficiency?
Your face can be changed through disruption of a simple set of variables. Simply select a number of the aforementioned predetermined parameters and select Randomize. You'll be offered infinite variations on how you might like Soul to perceive you.
So perception, I guess, is what I'm sort of looking at here, is can we enter a space where we can actually communicate each other with empathy and reach a level of empathy through our digital technologies and our digital experiences? Or principally, are we going to end up simply as I did when I started this talk, but in this position where we actually potentially annihilate ourselves because we're selfish? What does the future hold? I don't know. But that's it. Thank you.